Hey there, future California teacher, and welcome to this CBEST test prep video covering the complete list of CBEST reading questions. Hey there, my name is Elliot Zelinskis. I'm your fellow California credentialed teacher, and I'm here to help you pass your upcoming CBEST exam. So while I was studying for the CBEST, I really struggled to use the traditional study guides that are all printed in black and white. They don't really include tables, charts, or diagrams. I really needed a visual and hands on learning style to help me pass. So today, I am presenting you with some material that helped me pass my own CBEST exam in order to help you as well. So here is the verification that I personally passed the CBEST exam. And like I said, I hope this visual breakdown really helps you pass on your first try or your next try as well. Now, this video is proudly presented by teacherpreps.com. And in case you'd like access to our full CBEST test prep that makes passing this exam simple, I've left a link in the description below. All right, now, based on studying the official CBEST practice test, those questions that are actually created by the CTC administration, I discovered 12 underlying question types that I'm going to present to you today so that you have a better and more firm grasp on how to ace your upcoming exam. Now, this lesson is going to present highly critical concepts that will help you get prepared for your upcoming CBEST test. So, if you are ready, make sure that you are studying and you've got your notebook out and your pen out and you're ready to be an active listener, watcher, and student. So, without further ado, let's get started. We'll be covering the following 12 types, and don't worry, after these 12, we're going to go over these one by one, but I want to give you kind of the table of contents, the layout for what to expect for this exam. So let's get started. There are 12 types of questions that you'll receive while taking your CBEST reading test. The first one is called reference and locational questions. Then we're going to move on to organizational structure and pattern questions. Third, we have sentence insertion, which are also called gap filling, kind of like fill in the blank questions. Then we're going to move on to vocabulary in context type of questions. Then we have summary, main idea, and purpose questions. Then we're going to move on to inference and conclusion questions. We have opinion versus fact, logical reasoning and assumptions, procedure and sequence, analysis of persuasive techniques, detail and evidence-based support, and finally, we're going to end this lesson showcasing visual and data analysis questions. All right, now if that feels overwhelming right now, like I said, don't worry about a thing because we are going to walk step by step together. So I'm going to actually show you real examples of these question types so that you are totally prepared for your CBEST reading exam. We're going to start with number one, the reference and locational questions, where when using your CBEST, when taking your CBEST practice test, we can see in the practice exam that the CTC provided for free on their website. We can see that they are going to want to check your ability to use um, table of context, an index, glossaries, different types of nonfiction text structures so that you can show your ability to locate details quickly. Now, if we take a look at question number one, which asks, on which pages should one look to find information about medicinal uses of flowers? This is the type of question that comes back to the reference and locational question. So you can look something up. All right, so the next reading type of questions that you want to be aware of is called organizational structure and pattern questions, where you can see, which is now circled in red, which asks you to identify the best organizational pattern used in the index presented. So now, while taking your exam, if you discover a question about text organization, be on the lookout for your answer options A through E. Notice that with the reading subtest for the CBEST exam, all of these have 5 answer options: A, B, C, D, and E. Now we're taking a look specifically right there now, and if you receive an organizational structure or pattern type of question, look for different words within these contexts, such as chronological order, cause and effect, comparison and contrast, problem and solution, or spatial and geographic. All right, now let's move on to our next question type. While studying the practice test question formats, I noticed a commonality and I want you to be aware of it too. Now, this is displaying sentence insertion, or what we talked about, kind of the fill in the blank or gap filling type of questions, where you can see an example from this question right here. Now, I've circled this in red, but let's zoom in so you can see it even better. Now, that this question, if you receive a question like this while taking your exam, it's asking you to select the most appropriate option in order to complete a gap or a blank in the text passage, which we can see that the orange arrow is pointing straight to. Now, test tip, in order to answer these questions correctly, you want to assess the flow and the purpose as well as the tone of the passage in order to choose the sentence that fits best within a gap or main in order to maintain the coherence that the author is trying to relay or to send that message to the reader about. All right, now we're moving on to the fourth CBEST question type, which is called vocabulary in context. And an actual example can be seen by looking at the following practice test question. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. Again, this is number 4 on the official CBEST practice exam, but let's zoom in so that we can read this even better. Now, having a look at where the arrow is, we can see that on test day, you will likely receive a question as presented here. Notice how there is an underlined word. In this case, the example is quacks. And the question is, which of the following is the best meaning of the word quacks as it is used in the second paragraph of the passage? So you will read the passage, look for that word in the text passage, and then you will have to identify the most appropriate word or phrase that is in relation to the underlined word. All right, you're doing great. Thanks for sticking with me. If this video feels helpful for you, take a moment here and hit that thumbs up button. All right, next up, we are moving to summary, main idea, and purpose type of questions. And I just have to relay, I have to pause here a moment and say that this is one of the most common type of questions that you will see on your exam. There will more than likely be several of these types. So let's go over this now. Now, on your actual practice test, we're creating this breakdown from the official CBEST exam. And again, we are next going to be talking about summary, main idea, and purpose types of questions. However, let's start by focusing in on the main idea question types, where we can notice that these type of questions actually use the words main idea or an adjacent phrase such as main topics. So pinpointing these question types while taking your exam is quite simple because they literally say main idea or main topic. Now, additionally, we can see that the summary also, that word is used. In this case, summarizes or, summarizes is literally used. So, as long as you can pinpoint the key words, it's going to really help you better understand what's being asked of you. So, you can therefore go ahead and select the right answer option. Now, looking at the next section of this, which is the purpose questions. Or specifically, we can see writer's purpose, where interestingly, there are a total of 4 complete questions out of 50. Now, that is a frequent occurrence. Now, when I say out of 50, remember that your test has 50 questions for your reading exam. Now, if there are 4 main idea types of questions, that's a lot. It's important. And if we go back to the main idea here, we can see that there are also 4. So like I said, summary, main idea, and purpose questions have a lot, more than any other type of question that was presented on the official CBEST practice exam. All right, now moving on, we're going to a test tip where your CBEST exam is checking, in this case, that you can identify the overall gist or central themes as well as grasp the main purpose of the exam. That's what this section is all about, and that's what you're going to have to be able to identify when selecting the correct answer option. Now, in order to do that, what you'll want to do is start by skimming the text by reading the title, the subtitles, and the first and last sentence of the paragraphs. Then identify the keywords by looking for repeated words, emphasize terms or notable phrases to understand key themes, main ideas, or that main purpose. And finally, once you've done steps 1 and 2, go on to step 3 in order to reflect on the central theme by thinking about what the text is actually communicating. All right, you're doing great. Let's keep going. Next up, you also want to be familiar with our next type of CBEST reading question exam type, which is inference and conclusion question types. Now, if we take a look at this example question where you are asked to draw a conclusion based on the details provided in the text passage. Next up, you will also receive opinion and fact question types, which will ask you to distinguish between subjective assertions and objective statements, as seen in the 3 questions shown on the screen right now. Pause the video, read those questions, and understand where and how you can know that this is an opinion versus fact question. All right. The next type of question that you want to be prepared for is called the logical reasoning and assumptions question types. And in order to learn about these, we can examine example questions based off of that CBEST official practice test, which interestingly, the official CBEST practice test actually duplicated this exact same question 2 times on the same practice test, but used it for different text passages. Now, this to me means that a question like this, if not exactly this, will more than likely be presented to you on test day. So pause the video here, take note of what the question actually says, and keep it noted in the back of your head while taking your CBEST exam. Now, this is definitely a good question to know about. And in order to keep it moving, we're going on to our next question type, which is called procedure and sequence type of questions. Now, notice here with these example questions that what they want you to do is to identify procedure or sequence types. And in order to do that, we can identify the key words that indicate order or order of events or steps in a process. So if you have a look at questions 12 and 33, I underlined in red the key markings that show us that this is procedure or sequence, such as number 12, immediately after. That's we know when it says to do something and then immediately after, that's a procedure. Number 33, according to the information in the passage, then underlined in red, what is the last step in the process? We know that this is sequence. All right, you're doing great. Let's keep it moving with another question type called analysis of persuasive techniques. Now, this can be seen in number 34 of the CBEST practice exam. The key word here is to persuade, or meaning also to influence, where you'll read in order to decipher the correct answer option. Now, on test day, you're going to want to recognize strategies like appealing to emotion or logic or authority that the author of the text passage that you are reading is using to persuade you, the reader. Now, the next question type is called detail and evidence based support, where we can see in this example question, which comes from problem number 22, specifically, this one asks us, the test taker, to search for details from the passage. Now, notice as well that this question is also a combination question by not only asking us test takers about the writer's main idea, which I've underlined in green, but they are also asking an evidence-based question. If we go back here, underlined in red, which are the following details from the passage, and then underlined in green, best supports the writer's main idea. So just know that these type of questions can be combined in order to make a single question. Now, the next common text structure of a type of question for your CBEST exam is called visual and data analysis. Now let's take a look at the actual example here, where we can see this comes from question number 9, and this presents us with a graph, specifically a pie graph, and it asks the test taker, you and I, a follow-up question to demonstrate our ability to read the graph. So this practice test gave us a pie graph, but we don't know if you're going to get a pie graph on your exam. So make sure that you are familiar with other types of illustrations like histograms, scatter plots, line graphs, bar graphs, timelines, and more.